Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. Thanks for tuning in. Is the American dream dead? People came to America with a dream, or maybe you had a dream of starting a business, owning your own home, and things like owning your own home, starting a business, are becoming further and further out of reach. I think at the baseline, it's because the currency and interest rates are distorted by central banks, and there's nothing backing it. There's nothing restricting government spending. I think that's the baseline. But we see it in the data. American home affordability is at the lowest rate, or I guess the highest rate, in a very long time. So let's take a look at this story from Zero Hedge. House affordability worsens as home ownership out of reach for anyone making under 100,000. I remember growing up as a kid, anyone who made over 100,000 was rich. And just affording the median home today, you have to make over 100K. Insane. Which is a reason homes might come down in value. Let's go through the data here. The U.S. housing affordability crisis continues to worsen as mortgage rates skyrocket to two-decade highs. So we saw the highest increase in home prices in 2020 and 2021, and now we're at a two-decade high of interest rates on those same prices. Yes, they're falling a little bit, but it creates this affordability problem with the payment. Financing costs are through the roof, and anyone earning less than 100K has been priced out of home ownership. Where'd this come from? Redfin. Redfin says that the average buyer needed to earn $107,000 to afford a monthly mortgage payment of a medium-priced home, a whopping 46% higher from a year ago. And you needed to make a year ago 73,000. Something's got to give here, right? Something's got to give. And in an inflationary environment, especially in a unique environment today where a lot of people were able to refinance their home, and so now they're looking at their mortgage as the asset, not the home, because it kind of is. Because if you have inflation higher than 2% or higher than 3%, and you were ever able to refi your home at those 2 or 3% rates, you're sitting pretty because you are paying that mortgage back with cheaper dollars. And so what's going to force people to sell those homes? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen in mass, that's for sure. Um, so considering there have been 19 consecutive months of negative real wage growth, adjusted for inflation, most of which has been under President Biden's tenure, many prospective buyers have likely given up and are now renting or back in their parents' basement. A lot of people give Gen Z grief, and they say they're basement dwellers. A lot of things have changed economically speaking for people in the millennial and Gen Z generation when it comes to opportunities, like I said at the beginning of the video. Affordability challenges are a major reason why home sales have slowed so dramatically over the few months, Redfin says. And look at this. Pending home sales just falling off of the cliff. And I did a video um, on Airbnbs, and that could be the catalyst. That could be the catalyst for, because if it's your own personal residence and you have a 2 or 3% mortgage on it, you might not, unless you have to tap into the cash because you've lost your job, which could be coming. But that would also mean there's not a lot of buyers out there. But unless you have to tap into the cash because you lose your job, again, the mortgage is the asset. Now, Airbnbs are a different story. What do people cut during a recession? They cut travel. And over half of all Airbnbs were sold between 2020 and 2021. So, what's going to happen with those? It'll be interesting because if you just do a tertiary search on Airbnb, you'll see there's always a line through with the price dropping. People aren't renting those Airbnbs nearly as much. There was a false demand in 2021 and 2020 because people wanted to get out of the house, yada, 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 and that demand hasn't stayed there. What makes the affordability crisis worse is the Federal Reserve's most aggressive interest rate hikes in decades to quell inflation has sent 30-year mortgage rates above 7% with within the last several quarters. Another thing to think about, people tend to move down the economic ladder as things become more unaffordable. So, hey, you couldn't afford a $400,000 house because the interest rates went up. Now you got to go to 300, 200, and those starter homes, they're not coming on the market. And the reason they're not coming on the market, when I mean new starter homes, is because builders can't afford to build them at the price people want them at. Because goods, labor, all that stuff is working its way through the market. And so to build a 2 or 3-bed, 2-bath house, um, builders putting in 350 in cost, maybe 400 depending on the area. And so they can't really sell these starter homes and make a profit. So as people move down the economic ladder, they're running out of options, therefore they have to rent. The author says here, today we see the death of the American dream of home ownership. And what's the result? You'll rent and own nothing. Again, people are moving down the economic ladder. It's all because of distortion. Like, who made out like a bandit in 2020 and 2021? The richest people. And that's no fault of their own. I think it's the fault of the government, because people with assets, Amazon, for instance, and now they're having a come to Jesus meeting, but all these tech companies, they made billions and trillions of dollars because of government stimulus, and the poor is who got hurt the most. Further reading from here, it says, well, that's a very similar statement to the World Economic Forum. By 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll still be happy. And no matter what the Economic Forum says, I don't think you're ever going to change human beings and their innate desire for freedom and self-actualization and working for their own prosperity. Like, there are certain people that will take handouts and gladly take them, but a majority of the population is not going to, no matter what they say, is not going to be happy with owning nothing. Okay, so more importantly, all this suggests home prices should be on the cusp of a major turn down. Yeah, I there's so many moving parts to the home prices because we have, for the first time in history, these homes went up because of interest rates, and we're seeing historic things like the price of a home or the price to finance a home going up at historic rates. We're seeing inflation, um, and we're seeing people who were able to refinance not very long ago to a rate that is below inflation. So I think the canary in the coal mine is Airbnbs, because those will be the first to go. Vacation homes, second homes, yada yada. Those will be the first to go. How many of them are on the market or available to sell? Depending on your market, right? It really does depend on how many people Airbnb in your neck of the woods. Here's Bloomberg's opinion from Twitter. Inflation stings most if you earn less than 300K. Good grief. And here's how to deal with it. Take the bus. Don't buy in bulk. Try lentils instead of wheat or meat. I think you should try bugs instead of meat. Like a nice grasshopper burger. Delicious. Nobody said this would be fun. Pitchforks are going to come out eventually. Not everyone knows why this is happening. Like, why is it harder to make ends meet when supposedly the economy is stronger, everything's more efficient? It's because the money is distorted. And using the Cantillon effect, when the money's distorted and we print more and more of it, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And that's typically why riots start. That's typically why people get pissed. The base layer, it's money. It's this economic inequality where we feel that the rules aren't fair. Whether they're right or wrong, people feel like it's unfair. And in this instance, when it comes to money, they're correct. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys in the next one. Peace.